Well, hello everybody. Welcome to P.B.M. Money. Today, I want to talk about gamification. That's a mouthful. And I'll tell you where I got the word from. I was watching a video by Graham Stephan, which, by the way, I really enjoy his stuff, the other day, and he was talking about the gamification of purchasing stocks. And he's right, by the way. But I want, and I've been watching other videos, and Congress is getting ready to hold hearings, and Robinhood's coming in, and it's going to be a big deal, and we're going to hear a lot about making it too easy to buy stocks. They've made it like it's a game. Now I want to explain to you that even though they're right, this is nothing new. I'm old enough to remember the old ways when we had to buy stocks. Now let me explain it to you really quickly. First, you had to find a brokerage firm, and they were mostly only in the big cities. Then when you got there, you had to open an account, which means you had to put money into the brokerage before you bought any stock. And there was usually a minimum. There was usually monthly or annual fees. And there was usually a $4, $5, or $6 charge per trade. Now I want you to think about that. If I made $100 as a small guy, if I made $100 stock buy, I had to pay $105 to get the stock. Then I had to pay another $5 to sell it. So I got to make $110 just to break even. However, if I was a big boy and I bought $10,000 worth, I still paid the same $5 in and $5 out. But he doesn't have to turn 10% on his investment. To them, back then, that was a game, because the minimums in the brokerages was no big deal. They usually cut the big fish, big deals. So it was before Robinhood, picking stocks on the stock market and buying stocks was a game for rich people. All Robinhood did was bring it in for millennials and non-rich people. Now, there are certain things that happened is why people are upset. When the big boys play the games, which, by the way, in case you don't know, shorting the market, which is how these people lost all that money on GameStop, that's gambling. You're gambling that the price of the stock is going to go down. So don't let anybody tell you that it's an investment tool. It's gambling. It's like betting black or red on a roulette wheel. So when they say gamification, you need to ask yourself, who are they talking about? Are they talking about the gamification for the millennials and the average Joe? Are they talking about the gamification that's been happening for the last 200 years? They're both games, it's just the players are different. Now, before Robinhood and free trades for the stock market, the deck was always stacked against the little guy. And I'm going to explain to you how that deck was stacked apart. First, like I said, you had to get the account, which means you had to come up with a chunk of cash. Then there was a minimum, an annual or monthly fees, plus the in and out, $5 per trade charge. The research tools. See, with Robinhood and Webull and all the other ones, you now have research tools. I remember when we were going to buy stocks, we did, but it took us 6 months because we sent off and got the Morningstar newsletter, and we went back and purchased old copies so we could do some long-term, and we did a lot of research, but it cost us money because we had to get the Morning Star, and you had to get the binder, then you had to keep them in order, and it was a huge, huge investment. The ability to act quickly. On Robinhood, I can make a purchase in 30 seconds. Back in the day, so let's say we got the Morning Star, we found our stock on Monday night, and we wanted to make the purchase because the price was good. Monday night at closing, so Tuesday morning we'd be able to get the price. Well, it doesn't work that way. First off, you had to call the brokerage when he got there, and you had to talk to your broker, and you had to place the order, and it had to go up the chain, and then it had to go to the stock floor, and then it had to be purchased, and then it had to be verified, and then it had to be sent back. It was a procedure. Now, the reason that I believe they did that, they put a lot of steps in there so that they could pick and choose the time they wanted to do the purchase or the sales, depending on how much of a cut they could make. And another thing that it was against the small guy was trying to find a trusted and qualified broker. I knew a couple of brokers back in the day. They were as crooked as used car salesmen, no offense. But I mean, and I knew these guys. Nice guys, personable guys. But holy cow, the rich guys had their own investors. They had their own advisors. Now, another way that they're going to call this gamification is because they say that Robinhood specifically has set their site up so that it's very, very easy to go in there and to buy stocks, and it shouldn't be that easy because you need to do research and you need to have an understanding of what you're doing, blah, 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 blah. I'd like for you to go back and Google something. I want you to check this out. Check the accuracy of professional stock pickers versus throwing darts at a newspaper. They've done this for decades. They're about the same. The professional will come out a little bit ahead, but not by much. So when I heard Graham Stephan the other day talking about gamification, and he was saying, well, you know, they've taken away the research that you need to do. You need to look at the quarterly statements and the income and the PE ratio and you know, the past 3 years and the board of directors and what's the management like. Now let me explain something to you. That's all valid. Picking stocks, being a stock picker, is like in the old days, in cowboys and Indian days, when the Indian tribe had a tracker. A tracker would get off and he would get in front of the tribe before they trampled on the ground, and he would look at the ground. And he would look at all the signs. Which way were the footprints going? Was the grass indented or not dented? Was there cigarette butts or no cigarette butts? How many footsteps were there? How many people were there? How long ago had they been there? And he would go through all this information, and then he would make a surmise for the tribe. They're heading east or they're heading west, and there's 3 of them, and he may or may not have been right. It's not a science. The people that have money want you to think it's a science, and they probably do a lot of work on that. But if you compare their accuracy with the accuracy of just about anybody else, they might be a little better. They ain't all that much better. Remember that picking stocks is not a science, it's an art. And however you do that in your art form, that's on you. It's not up to the government, and it's not up to Robinhood. It's nobody's fault but yours. Remember, if stock picking was a science, we would all do the same thing, we would all buy the same stocks, and we would all be successful, and nobody would lose any money, because a science is something that you can do over and over and over. You can have 1,000 people look at the same company and the same stocks, and the same circumstance and all come to the same conclusion: buy or sell or hold. That's a science. An art form is looking at the ground, looking where it's been, looking the past performance, and trying to decide which way they're going and how big it's going to be and how small. Or it's an art form. It is not a science. So don't let people buffalo you. Now, I am very much in favor of the Robin Hoods and the Weebles and the free trade of stocks and bonds. However, I do think that people need to be aware that you will lose money if you're not careful. And even if you are careful, everybody loses money at some point. The question is, how much are you going to lose? You never put your life savings where you can't control a portion of it. Never put money in that you can't afford to lose or that you cannot replace. The older you get, the more conservative you should be. My daughter right now is learning about stocks, and she's buying one share of several companies and learning to get her way around, how to do the research, where to look, what to do, how to purchase, when to purchase, what to look for. She's learning all of that, but she only put in enough to cover, I think she put in $300. And for each company she's buying one share. So she can learn and watch and grow. That's the right way to do it. So I wanted to come on today and talk about, because the way that Graham Stephan used that word gamification, it almost sounded like a pejorative. And I thought about that, especially when he closed with, all the research and the tools that you need and all of that garbage. He's accurate, but that's not all there is to it. It's an art form. Think about all the different types of art there are. I mean, there's marble working, there's woodworking, there's oils, there's water, there's chalks. There's people make art out of anything. So anyway you want to pick stocks, if you're successful in picking stocks, then you go do that. And don't let these guys, don't let them make what has always been into a pejorative to try to intimidate you. And I'll tell you, I think what's going to happen is the big boys are butthurt because they got caught with their pants down around their ankles over GameStop. And they're going to try to put regulations, have Congress make regulations to make it harder once again for the little guy to get in and to give the big boys the run of the room. The big boys forgot the rules. They were gambling on the stock market and they lost and they don't like it. So now they're going to come after the little guys because the little guys is the ones that hurt them. So don't let that happen. If it looks like it's going to get to that point, then you know the things to do. Congressmen, senators, do all the things, write all the media places, support the Robin Hoods and the Weebles and all of that. So keep your eyes on the news, watch what's going on, and remember, the gamification of buying stocks, that is not a pejorative. That's just a continuation of what's been happening for decades and decades and decades. The only thing that's changed is who's allowed to play. Remember that. Well, you guys have a great week. I'll see you on the next video. Happy investing.